Today. My name is Nadia Abu Zahra, and I am a professor at the University of Ottawa, where I serve as a full professor of international development and global studies. I am here today as a representative of Palestinian Students and Scholars at Risk, PSSAR, the primary organization in Canada assisting students in Gaza with navigating university applications and visa processes. Today, we are joined by Taha Gayoor, the Executive Director of Justice for All Canada. We are also joined by Professor Nahla Abdu, Professor at Carleton University, and by Nir Hagigi, a representative of Independent Jewish Voices Ottawa. Each speaker will share brief remarks, after which we will open the floor for questions. For members of the media, we kindly request that you email info@pssar.org with your contact information so we can share updates and follow-up materials regarding this important issue. I now invite Taha Gayoor to share his remarks.
Good morning. My name is Taha Gayoor, and I serve as Executive Director at Justice for All Canada. On December 4th, Minister Lina Metlej Diab was asked why the IRCC placed 130 Palestinian graduate students under an exceptional screening regime, while they remain stuck in unprecedented ways and delays during a genocide that has destroyed every university in Gaza. Minister Diab replied that these students must still meet all requirements. This response is unacceptable. It shows no consideration for the catastrophe facing Palestinians in Gaza. As a human rights organization that produces robust policy research, Justice for All Canada has identified and documented the deliberate imposition of exceptional barriers on these students. Findings of this report will be published shortly. Instead of adapting existing frameworks like the exemptions offered to Ukrainians in 2023, this is a policy decision, a deliberate policy decision. It keeps Palestinian students in danger instead of within the Canadian lecture halls that have already accepted them where they belong. 2 students who were already admitted to the University of Waterloo were killed before they had the opportunity to start their PhDs. The IRCC is fully aware of their debts. Today, we remind the minister that the duty of Canadian government to protect civilians facing mass atrocity is non-negotiable. Despite having the capacity and mechanisms to assist, the Canadian government is not applying international legal protections. The minister has the authority to waive biometrics, but has declined to do so. Meanwhile, Canada's allies evacuated and cleared hundreds of students. Within 2 weeks of acceptance, Canada must also meet this standard. We gather today to ask why these protections are offered to other deserving students in similar circumstances, but not to Palestinian students. Numerous human rights groups, humanitarian organizations, legal and genocide experts have already confirmed an active genocide with a case pending at the ICJ, and arrest warrants issued by the ICC. This is a travesty of human life that genocide scholars describe as an ejuscide. Yet IRCC continues to withhold available measures such as evacuations, expedited processing, biometric waivers, and more. Under the Immigration and Refugee Protection Act, IRPA, the minister can waive biometrics when collection is impossible. Canada used this same authority just 2 years ago to let Ukrainian students complete biometrics upon arrival. So today, we urge the minister to, number 1, reverse the refusal to grant biometric exemptions. Number 2, to evacuate the students still trapped in Gaza as Canada's allies have already done. Number 3, to end visa delays for students who have already completed biometrics in Egypt. And number 4, restore Gaza students access to the 2-week priority processing offered to PhD applicants. We call on the Government of Canada to be consistent in its response. Otherwise, it is a clear double standard. Thank you. Now I invite Dr. Nahela Abdu to the stage.
Good afternoon. My name is Nahla Abdu. I'm a Chancellor's Professor and I belong to Faculty for Palestine from Carleton University. The genocide has actually devastated the education sector in Gaza. All 12 universities in Gaza have been partially or completely destroyed. More than 80% of schools have been destroyed. Despite the horrific conditions, we have 130 students that have defied all odds, applied to competitive graduate research-based programs, conducted interviews, and earned their place in our universities. These 130 students are unable to begin their studies because IRCC is not processing their applications. 100 of these students are trapped in Gaza and cannot leave without the facilitation of a third country. It is simply impossible for them to go to Egypt and give their biometrics. The remaining 30 are located in Egypt, but are still experiencing delays for more than 18 months. As academics, my colleagues and I will be largely strengthened and benefit a lot by students with diverse backgrounds who bring new innovative perspectives. Canada should support such initiatives without delay. We are losing academic talent due to RCC bureaucratic failures. Our government's refusal to act is effectively a rejection of these student visas without any due process. We know that Canada has responded to past crises by adjusting the visa process, and my colleague earlier has mentioned that, and you will see that in our report. Canada should ensure that these students have a fair chance to have their visa applications reviewed. For decades, Canada has upheld a reputation as a welcoming country for all. The bias against Palestinian applications risks completely damaging the image and should not be tolerated. This week, 1 year ago, since the killing of Dalia and Sally, two sisters, students who were admitted to the University of Waterloo, but were killed before they could get their fresh start. Today, I ask Lina Diab, while you flip through your binder of excuses, more students like Sally and Dalia have their academic futures stripped from them. So I ask for the minister to revise the policy and speed up the process. Thank you. Now I invite Nir Hagigi from Independent Jewish Voices.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Nir Hagigi. I'm here on behalf of Independent Jewish Voices Canada. We're a national grassroots organization representing thousands of Jews and allies across the country. But today I'm also speaking here as a student at Carleton University. And I want to be clear from the very start. What is happening to Palestinian students right now is not a technical delay. It's a willful choice by our political establishment. As was already said, over 130 Palestinian students from Gaza have been admitted into Canadian universities. These are not abstract numbers to me. These are students just like me and my classmates. They finished their degrees under bombardment. They wrote their applications while displaced. They sat through interviews while their families were being starved, wounded, and killed. Against all possible odds, they did everything we tell students to do. They worked, they persevered, they succeeded. And now, after all that they've endured, Canada is the one failing them. In 2023, when Russia invaded Ukraine, Canada understood that the crisis demanded flexibility. The federal government used existing authority under the Immigration and Refugee Protection Act to waive biometric requirements and to allow Ukrainians to complete them upon arrival. That flexibility saved thousands of lives, and it protected access to education. I wrote about this contrast in an article for the Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives, where I showed how Palestinians today are being denied the same humanitarian considerations that Ukrainians rightfully received. And my research showed that while 81% of applications from Ukraine were accepted, only 16% of Palestinian applicants were approved. These numbers so clearly show whose lives are treated as urgent and whose are treated as disposable. I'm also speaking today as a global studies student at Carleton University. Every single week, my classmates and I walk into lecture halls and talk about genocide prevention. We debate international law. We analyze case studies of state violence, displacement, and border regimes. But at the exact same time, students who are supposed to be sitting beside us, students who earned their way into our universities, are trapped behind walls of paperwork, delay, and political indifference. For us, human rights are discussed in classrooms, but for them, human rights determine whether they live or die. Canada has an opportunity to turn these values into action, and right now, they are refusing. This is the Islamic University of Gaza, or rather, this was the Islamic University of Gaza. This was a place where students studied for exams, where professors taught, where futures were being built. One of my dearest professors at Carleton, Dr. Iyas Salim Abu Hajar, worked and taught at this university before coming to Canada. He knew the students and professors that walked these halls. Now it's rebels. Libraries are gone, laboratories are gone, lecture halls are gone, and yet even after their universities have been erased from the face of this earth, Palestinian students are still being told to meet impossible requirements. That is not neutrality, that is cruelty. What makes this even more painful is the Canadian academic community is ready. Professors like Dr. Abdo and Dr. Abu Zahra are ready. The funding is ready. The campuses are ready. We, the students, are ready to welcome these students into our communities and to support them. Every single barrier that still stands is being upheld by this government's inaction. Canada cannot claim to defend education, human rights, and equality while actively blocking Palestinian students from safety, from research, and from futures that they have already earned. These students have done everything that was asked of them under conditions no student should ever have to endure, and now it's Canada's responsibility to do the same. Thank you.
I'm speaking for the Palestinian Students and Scholars at Risk, which is a Canadian nonprofit supporting students at risk in pursuing their academic aspirations. Since the year 2024, more than 130 postgraduate students from Gaza have received graduate program admissions from over 25 Canadian universities. 130 students are waiting for their study permits to be processed. Some have been waiting for more than 18 months. 30 of these students are in Cairo and have submitted their biometrics. A handful of students in Gaza have completed biometrics as well, prior to border closures, and yet they are still experiencing delays of 18 months or longer. This is not solely about biometrics. It is misleading for Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada to continue to say that this is why the applications are stalled. The government is effectively blocking visas, even for those who are eligible and have complete applications. Since she has been appointed, Minister Lina Mitlige-Diab has refused to meet us, universities, academics, and other stakeholders affected by these delays. We have tried to meet with Minister Lina Mitlige-Diab for the last 7 months, and we have received no response. A coalition of professors have sent Minister Lina Mitlige-Diab a letter signed by more than 900 Canadian academics and organizations from across the country, and still she has not responded. More than 12,000 Canadians have sent emails to the minister about this issue, and she continues to ignore the failures of her department. Still, she has not responded. Constituents in over 30 ridings have met with their members of Parliament on this issue. Most of them have also expressed frustration with the Minister's office. When asked in the Immigration, Refugee and Citizenship Canada committee hearing about this issue in committee last week, Minister Lina Mitleja-Diab gave an incomplete and unacceptable response. The minister stated that students in Gaza need to apply like any other international student, no exceptions, and admission to a Canadian university does not mean you are eligible for a visa. The minister has responded with no consideration for the catastrophic circumstances these students are living through. Already, 2 students have been killed, and over 20 injured, and several have lost their admissions. Minister Lina Mitleja-Diab has chosen to abandon these students. This choice threatens these students' academic futures. It slows down research for professors across the country. Her refusal to act reflects her disregard for the calls that thousands of Canadians across the country have been making. Inaction on this file undermines Canada's global credibility and breaks with our historic role in advancing education, human rights, and post-conflict rebuilding. Canada is choosing not to help. Minister Lina Mitleja-Diab, it is now time to respond to the thousands of Canadians who have called on you to fix this problem. Thank you. We will now open the floor for questions from journalists.
All right, we're gonna forego that. I hope you will leave comments and ideas, thoughts, and we'll be back. Have a good afternoon.